Tim, let me start with the first big question. What do you think are the most important challenges facing the planet, especially with regard to the Sustainable Development Goals of the UN and the transition we have coming ahead from a carbon world, which has actually stood the world in good stead so far, to something else, which is perhaps more sustainable for us going forward?
Yeah, thanks, Ketan. I think first and foremost, it's agreeing that we have urgent needs that are worth addressing, and it'll take capital, right? And so I think this is a timely discussion, and thank you for focusing on it. We have to prioritize our efforts, particularly around decarbonization and getting through an energy transition. There's a lot of sizzle. There's a lot of everyone has opinions, but I think it's really important that we be sober about it and step back and focus on the high impact areas. I think we're making progress, but need more progress in the rigor of measurement and making sure that we're rigorously managing toward defined goals. And to have goals, you need to have measurements. And we're delighted, I'll talk about them in a little bit. We're delighted to have some partnerships with folks where we're trying to be part of the solution to develop those standards. I think, this transition is going to take a massive amount of capital, insurance capital and other capital. Many would say the energy transition is going to be the largest reallocation of capital of our time. And so we really do need to mobilize the capital to get it right. And we need public and private partnerships. The public sector can't do this alone. The private sector can't do this alone. So there really needs to be collaboration and policy setting and agreed on measures and metrics and commitments, and a true partnership between the public and private sector. And then finally, with regard to challenges, I would say making sure, Ketan, that we get the pace right. As you said a moment ago, our global economy has been built on a fossil fuel infrastructure, and it's not going to be easy or fast to make that transition, but it's a transition that we have to make. But while doing that, we need to avoid harmful unintended consequences of energy poverty. Right now, at least, clean energy is pretty expensive. So we need to make sure that those most in need are able to afford and receive energy, and that it's reliable. We're going to be reliant upon old sources of energy as we build the infrastructure for new sources of energy. And so it's going to be important that we kind of balance that as we move forward, and then reskilling of labor and making sure that we manage through what will no doubt be labor disruption. And we're going to need to reskill those workers toward a new energy economy, folks that are currently working in the fossil fuel industry.
Tim, that's those are all really important points, because I think what you're highlighting is this is almost like a civilizational level shift, or a economic, political model shift almost that's going on. What does that mean for your industry?
Well, it's a key focus of Liberty Mutual and of the insurance industry, all of our peers. We're talking an awful lot about sustainability and about ESG and incorporating that into how we lead and operate and measure our business. We in the insurance industry see the impacts of climate change firsthand, the devastating impact on our customers, our homeowners, our automobile customers, our small businesses, our larger businesses, as storm intensity increases and as natural catastrophes become more common and worse. And so Liberty Mutual is deeply committed, as many of our peers are, to being part of the solution across all of the SDGs, including energy transition. And at Liberty Mutual, we're proud to have been the first US based P&C insurer to be a signatory to the Principles for Responsible Investment. So we're looking at being part of the solution across our insurance business and also in our very large investment portfolio, which really leads me to the point that the insurance industry truly is at the intersection of all of these things on both the insurance and the investment side. And I've always believed, I've been with Liberty Mutual and in the insurance industry for 28 years, insurance is inherently a socially responsible product. Whether it's climate change and helping people recover from climate events or natural catastrophe events, or helping our commercial customers transition to a clean energy economy, or helping folks in underserved markets, helping people in Brazil, for instance, who might not have auto insurance that's accessible to them. We've launched products that are kind of lower price point and more affordable to make sure that we're ensuring accessibility of insurance in places like Brazil, whether it's accident and health in Asia, or managing property risk in the US, or helping with the transition to electric vehicles, and launching, as we did several years ago, a buy mile product where consumers can pay for their auto insurance by mile driven, both how they drive and as much as they drive. And that's an incentive to drive a little bit less, to be a little bit more thoughtful, and also engaging with the burgeoning electric vehicle industry. And we've got Tesla as a partner of ours, and we're partnering with more and more of the automobile manufacturers who are working on electric vehicles, and what are the impacts of that going to be on safety, on the environment, and on consumers' affordability of insurance.
Tim, it seems like a really tough and challenging time to be a leader in an institution, because on the one hand, you have all the old requirements still to meet in terms of returns, delivery of product, service, and so on. And that has to happen across the world. You're a global institution. And at the same time, you have all these new demands on you to make sure that you're relevant to the world and its shift to a more sustainable model. And that pressure comes at multiple levels. Your employees want that to change, your customers want it to change. Your other stakeholders are all weighing into. What are the sorts of things that your institution has done, Liberty have done, the focus areas, the plans going forward?
Yeah, thanks for the question, Ketan. So I don't, as a leader of Liberty Mutual, I don't feel it as a pressure. I actually feel it as an obligation, and I feel it as an outgrowth of the values that we've had for our 110 years in existence. And if I believe that the insurance industry is uniquely positioned to be an enabler of energy transition, then of course I believe Liberty Mutual has to be part of that solution. And so whether it's parametric products that have environmental triggers that provide quick liquidity when natural catastrophes occur, or as I said, buy mile insurance to provide incentive to drive less, data analytics, improving catastrophe and climate modeling. We've done that for a living for a long time as a large property insurer. We're working with MIT on machine learning to better assess flood risk. We are offering resilient building materials for repairs to homes for our homeowners customers, and we're starting to develop and build innovative products and investments for the emerging clean energy business, both on the insurance side of the balance sheet and on the investment side. And so, as we think about our decarbonization strategy, or our climate transition strategy, front and center in what we're working on are 4 of the SDGs, which are affordable clean energy, sustainable cities and communities, responsible consumption and production, and then of course climate action, which we're talking about quite a bit in this discussion. And we've got a 4-pronged strategy against that. The first is just to fundamentally understand climate change. There's a lot of misinformation, and a lot of folks focus maybe on low impact areas where we want to focus on high impact areas. So understanding climate change and the impacts it's going to have on our customers, our employees, and the broader society, and protecting our customers and helping them to thrive during this transition, because climate and severity of storm is likely going to get worse before it gets better, and so we need to be there for our customers. And so as part of that understanding, we issued our first report on the task force on climate-related financial disclosures, again trying to get back to how we can be part of the solution for kind of common metrics and common goals to make sure that we're all measuring toward the same outcome, because as I said earlier, collaboration is going to be so important. I wish there was a silver bullet to this, but there's not. It's so multifaceted that we're really going to work together, and it's going to be hard to work together without common metrics. We also have joined the partnership for carbon accounting financials, again with the same objective. And so number one is to understand, to engage with those outside organizations that are trying to move the ball forward, if you will. Second of our 4-pronged strategy is to adapt our own business operations, right? So we have announced commitments on scope 1 and 2 greenhouse gas emissions from our operations, and we're down the path on that. And those are commitments that we intend to abide by and exceed. We are no longer, we've said this publicly, we are no longer accepting insurance clients or investment opportunities if the exposure to thermal coal is more than 25% of the exposure or of their revenue. And over the next couple of years, we'll phase out any existing relationships that exceed that threshold. So we're starting to move down the path of, trying to play our role in providing incentive and prompting to clients and customers to start to enter their own migration and their own path toward cleaner energy. And it's going to take some time. And we view it as something where we don't want to be punitive to our customers and partners. We want to be part of the solution and work with them by creating innovative products to help our existing customers and new customers meet their climate change challenges and to pursue investment opportunities. We have tripled our investment in clean energy in our investment portfolio over the last 3 years. We've cut our fossil fuel exposure in our investment portfolio by 50% over the last 5 years. So we are going through our own transition of our investment portfolio, de-emphasizing fossil fuel exposure, but doing it in a prudent and helpful and constructive pace, and not an all or nothing approach, which would lead to some of the collateral damage that I mentioned earlier of moving too far and too fast here. We made our first renewable energy investment in our investment portfolio way back in 2007 when we started to invest in wind power. And we did that because it's good business, because we do think, some would say up to $4 trillion in the coming years in spending on this energy transition. And we do think it's good business as well as the right thing to do. So whether it's solar energy or energy storage or power generation build-outs for currently non-powered dams for hydroelectricity, we are playing in all of those realms, both on the insurance side and on the investment side, and continuing to work with folks like Yucatan and Force for Good, because as I said, we're really going to collaborate. And I think organizations like yours are critically important in doing things like you're doing with this session to bring people together so we can all work together and kind of row in the same direction. I've got 50,000 employees in 29 countries across the globe, and we are global citizens as a company and as individuals, and we want to do the right thing for the future of the planet, for the future of our societies and economies. And so we're all in on doing it at the right pace, doing it in the high impact areas, and doing it in a way that minimizes collateral damage as we go.
Tim, that's very comprehensive, and it brings me to a very important question for you, which is, you would not have been the leading institution that you are, Liberty would not have been, if you'd not been part of financing the power sector in the US as it was. And in the same light, you won't be the leading insurer in the future unless you finance the future. That's commercially sound, therefore, to have the strategy you have. You've hinted, though, in the way you've spoken about it, more than hinted, that actually this is also about beliefs and values and things you care about. Would you say a little bit about that too, please? Sure.
We have been a mission and value-driven company for our entire 110-year history, and our mantra, our mission is to help people embrace today and confidently pursue tomorrow. And what fits better to that mission of Liberty Mutual than helping be a part of this so that people can confidently pursue tomorrow in a way that's fair and equitable and healthy, and addresses some of these tough challenges and issues. And so we believe deeply in our mission. People wouldn't drive their cars, they wouldn't buy homes, they wouldn't start businesses if insurance companies like Liberty Mutual weren't there to protect and empower them so that they don't face catastrophic economic loss if things go badly. And so we view that mission very seriously. We are a values-driven company that puts people first, that wants to make things better and keep things simple, focus on the right things, don't get distracted by the noise. And so this is something that we want to protect our current customers, but we also want to innovate. I'm a deep believer in the human spirit, in innovation, and in the the power and potential of technology, and whether it's with our MIT machine learning initiatives to get better predictive modeling, or with some of the new products that we're putting in market, we view ourselves as deeply part of the solution, and I don't view it as a pressure. I view it as an obligation to be a good global citizen, a good corporate citizen, and we always do the right thing. We always put integrity ahead of profit. We talk about that all the time, and this is something that we're deeply committed to, and we're deeply committed to doing it right and collaborating with whoever wants to collaborate to be a part of the solution.
That's fantastic, Tim. It really is. And it's been a pleasure actually working with you and your team through this whole Force for Good initiative. I'm going to turn it though to something very important now, which is, where do you think it goes? What do we have to do to meet these goals? Our report shows that probably to close the gap on the SDGs by 2030, we have to figure out how to unlock $100 trillion of the assets, the financial assets in the world, towards something that is more sustainable. That may happen very naturally because the opportunity set that arises is there. But how do we accelerate it and do it such that the world benefits from it? And I know, based on interactions with you in the past, that you've been to countries like India and China that are growing very fast, and feel they need to use carbon to actually grow. So there's a tension in the system there. What is your perspective on what the world needs to do?
Yeah, I wish there was one big idea, Ketan, that would kind of get after this, but I really do believe there's no fast or easy answer. This is a big challenge, and it's a complex challenge, and it demands complex solutions. But the biggest thing is to come together, because if everyone acts in their self-interest, I think we're in a fair amount of trouble. I think we can all agree on that. And so we have to be thoughtful, in my view, about allowing in a prudent way economic development in places of great poverty, or where economies are still developing, while also innovating and investing in technologies that are going to allow us to kind of do both. It's as is often talked about in these types of things, it's a both and. We have to find the balance between economic growth and development, and creating a cleaner, safer environment for our children and grandchildren and their children. And so I think first off is everyone agreeing that we have a problem, and it's a problem that's urgent and important enough to devote our best and brightest people and thinkers, to devote an awful lot of capital, as you mentioned, and to do it together. And we need these convening mechanisms to make sure that we're all moving forward together. And as I said, I'm a big believer in innovation. We've also talked, we're talking more specifically, I suppose, about climate change and about the energy transition, but the SDGs overall are just a noble mission, and we're proud and happy to participate in many of those. And our diversity, equity, and inclusion efforts, our efforts on energy transition, as I've talked about, and our philanthropy programs all advance many of the SDGs that you folks are talking about, and that we're all focused on. So we've got representation goals for our people to make sure that there's equity in our organization and outside of our organization. We put representation goals out where we will be more than 50% female across our entire employee population, and more than a third people of color over that same period of time by 2025. And so we feel good about that, and we are marching toward that, and we will achieve those. Our philanthropy is focused in homelessness, in education, and in accessibility to folks that otherwise wouldn't be able to access products or services or physical environments. And so we're trying to do the best we can. Our philanthropy efforts, we've invested $500 million over the last 10 years in charities and service organizations that are working on those three areas that I mentioned. And we're going to continue to be part of the solution for the energy transition. And so I wish I had that one big idea. I think it's going to take the best and brightest people. I think it's going to take capital. I think it's going to take conviction and courage, frankly, to step out, because the path of least resistance here is to act in one's own self-interest. And no matter what we do, we're going to have some some free riders and some externalities in trying to accomplish this, but I think we all have to realize the stakes before us, and we have to appreciate and feel the obligation of our role in being part of the solution and working together. And so I deeply appreciate the work that Force for Good is doing. We're honored and delighted to be associated with you and that organization. And I just think it's going to be a matter of one step at a time, clear goals and measurements, and then collaboration, public-private, to get it done.
Thank you, Tim. That's a very positive note to stop on. And I think your commitment is absolutely clear. And I know it's earnings season for many financial institutions, and it's a very busy time. And so thank you very much also for making the time to have this discussion.
Thank you very much. I'm delighted to have the opportunity.